slept in." "I can't believe you slept in when all this is happening. I've barely had any sleep and been awake since 5:30. "Yes, well, you are a little obsessed." "Obsessed? I'm concerned, like everyone else, apart from you, it would seem." "I've told you what I think. It's a publicity stunt. Has to be." "I don't think the government would be quite so involved if it were just a publicity stunt, Stephen. I read that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's very worried now too. He's given a spirit medium one of Mrs. Christie's gloves so that she can use it to try and find her," she added, turning to him as she walked through the oak gate into the woods. Overhead, the now familiar burring of a small airplane circling distracted her, and she paused to look up. "Yes, all very queer," she said. She lowered her gaze, met his eyes. "What? Why are you smiling?" "No reason," he said, and they walked on beneath the evergreens. 3 years older than Daisy, Stephen had lived at Eden Hall since the summer of 1909, when the Jessops adopted him. The then 4-year-old orphan had come down from London on a train accompanied by a cousin of Mrs. Jessop, and though Daisy had no memory of that momentous day, she had heard how very shy Stephen had been, and how very happy Mrs. Jessop had been to meet her new son. For all intents and purposes, a general servant, Stephen had been officially employed at Eden Hall since he'd finished school at 14. More recently, after the scandal of the previous year, when Howard Forbes' chauffeur had put a young kitchen maid in the family way, and Howard had sent them both packing, Stephen had been called on to step in. He had never driven a motor car, but Howard had told him that it was easy enough and that he could spend an hour or two practising on the driveway. And so up and down Stephen and the Rolls went, clanking and grinding, juddering and stalling, as Daisy and her sisters looked on. The girls had anticipated, almost hoped for, a repeat of Aunt Docia's performance of earlier that year, when she'd decided to have a go in Howard's old Austin 20 and had, at some speed, driven the vehicle straight off the driveway, through the Japanese garden and into the lily pond. But no such drama occurred, and now Stephen was Jessop and lived above the garages in the coachman's flat. He was, Daisy often thought, the nearest thing she had to a brother, an elder brother, because he'd always been exactly how she imagined one to be: protective, informative, knowledgeable, and sometimes teasing. Halfway down into the valley, standing on the ridge by the old wooden bridge, Daisy lifted her father's binoculars from their leather case. The mist was clearing, the low winter sun breaking through the vaporous cloud, picking up flecks of colour in the otherwise drab and scrawny heathland. Far below, she could see clusters of people moving in and out of the shadows on the tree-lined pathways. "Everyone seems to be heading in the same direction, toward Thursley," she said. "Trotton specifically said we had to spread ourselves out, not follow each other," she added, putting away the binoculars and turning to Stephen, who was rolling a cigarette. "I don't know how you can do that at a time like this." She jumped down from the embankment. "Don't you realise? This is international news." Stephen said nothing. He tilted his head, lifted his lighter to the cigarette. "You're so annoying," she said, watching him. "If poor Mrs. Christie is found, it'll be no thanks to you." Beneath his cap, his dark hair looked greasy and uncombed. He obviously hadn't had time to shave or to wash, she thought. He wore the dark green scarf she had given him last Christmas, knotted at the front of his pale neck and tucked into his sweater, his jacket collar pulled up high around it. He shivered and then stamped his feet as he sucked on his cigarette. "Come on then," he said, walking on. "Who's dallying now?" he called back, jogging off beneath the pine trees. By the time Daisy caught up with him, they were at the very bottom of the valley, where the stream was wider and gushed in a torrent over rocks and boulders, swept down from the hills over millennia. He sat upon a tree stump and made a point of looking at his wristwatch. "Yes, very funny," she said, not looking at him, walking slowly towards him. "There may have been a murder committed, and you're treating it as though it's all some sort of game." "I don't believe we're going to find Mrs. Christie, or any clues to her disappearance, around here, that's all. Her car was left at Newlands Corner, Daisy. That's some miles away." "Then why bother